Hey guys, welcome back to J&M Sports Talk. I'm Mark. This is Jonathan. We're back for a second week of talk, and a lot has happened within the last couple of days. Really,
we got a second show.
we got a second show. That's the main item. But I'm thinking about more in line with the news out of Gainesville that 7 players are suspended for the season opener at Michigan.
Yeah.
So basically, for those of you that aren't aware of the situation, 7 players use a financial aid to purchase electronics. And then what they did was they sold the electronics for cash to other people. And then they reported their credit card stolen that the money was given on. So interesting college decision.
Yeah, we'll say it's along the lines of like Bama and how they're handling it. It for only being one game, yeah. We'll just it's a suspension, but yeah, it's a big game, but there's that line there that many people I'm sure are going to judge some more than others. I'm sure Seminoles are having a field day with this. To be honest.
That's true, and Florida has a huge matchup their first game of the season. Michigan, Florida, a couple years ago, that was a huge blowout. Michigan beat them. So you would have thought that the Florida players would be locked in and focused for this game, but it's the contrary, unfortunately.
I say they're missing some big names, especially Callaway, which Callaway's been nothing but trouble. It seems like at Gainesville since he's got there. I think at one point Jim McElwain said he was yesterday in one of the articles. He was like he's on his last leg there at Florida. So it's interesting if maybe this will be the last time we see of him if he gets things straight, or maybe he might not be in Gainesville much longer.
Yeah, there was rumblings that he wouldn't even be playing the first game of the season against Michigan anyway. So this kind of solidifies that. There's some other supporting cast, a lot of defensive players.
That defensive end Davis,
Yeah,
I believe it is. He's gonna be missing. They need him for added depth because they lost a ton of talent on that defensive line last year. So
it'll really be all hands on deck for the University of Florida. That game will be in Arlington. It's a neutral site game the first week of the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But right now, Florida, they're going to be without a lot of supporting cast for that game. Another issue came out, with Auburn. Jonathan, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we've had an interesting 2 days. They officially announced that Jared Stidham to be named the Auburn quarterback, and he's going to be running the show. So a lot of people expected this. I, for one, have been very much in support of since he signed on. Sean White's a great quarterback, and I'm sure it's a heck of a battle. But at the end of the day, Stidham and his arm and his mobility being a little more, that's probably what won him the job. One cool thing about this, we'll get into more later, but this is probably one of the most true quarterback battles in the country this year, simply because Chip Lindsey is the new offense coordinator at Auburn. He will not be running the Gus Malzahn offense. So he's bringing his own playbook. So both quarterbacks had opportunity to learn the playbook together, and for what it's out. So it was probably a good battle. At the end of the day, skill is going to be Stidham's world. And while we're talking about Auburn, a surprising move, John Franklin III, Mr. Last Chance U, we thought was at his last chance U, is going on to Florida Atlantic with Lane Kiffin. So that's surprising me more with the timing more than else. What do you think?
Yeah, and we found that out this afternoon. It's kind of baffling when you think about it. There was an Auburn beat writer that wrote an article about John Franklin getting his degree, and basically John Franklin saying that he had been 4 other spots and that transferring really wasn't an option for him.
Right.
And so he gets his degree, and a week later he's transferring to Florida Atlantic midway through preseason camp. So very puzzling move, but we think that he's got a great skill set, very speed. But where does he fit in? Will he be a quarterback? Will he be a receiver? Where does John Franklin really fit in?
It seems like he's going to the same situation, just at a different school. Yeah, that's really the question. I mean, we of course wish him the best. He's transferring as graduate transfer, so we be able to play immediately. So maybe he just felt he could get more opportunity to play there. Because I know at the end of the day, he's still like all these other guys. They still have that dream to play in the NFL, and maybe he thinks Kiffin will help him get there. I wish him the best.
Yeah, we'll see how his season plays out. But for right now, just kind of a head scratcher there with John Franklin. Another news item yesterday was the passing of Frank Broyles. Jonathan, you want to talk a little bit about Frank Broyles?
Yeah, he's one of the most winningest coaches at Arkansas. He did a lot for the University of Arkansas as well as coaching in general. I mean, every year the top coordinator is presented the Frank Broyles Award. I mean, he's been a guy that's been great for college football his entire life, and I'm sure everyone in Arkansas is hurting right now. I'll send him a blue pig for that. He's done so much for college football. I know you know a little bit more of that too.
Yeah, Frank Broyles, he was instrumental in Arkansas joining the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
They used to be a part of the Southwest Conference, which was mainly the Texas and Oklahoma area. And Frank was really instrumental in them making the move to the SEC because, the Big 8 conference was started, which later became the Big 12 conference. But you talk about the revenue stream to the University of Arkansas. He was instrumental behind that. So the University of Arkansas has tremendous tracings back to Frank Broyles and all that he's done. So he will definitely be missed in the college football world for sure. Yep. So those are kind of the items that have happened just this week. You can feel the season coming on. And last week we previewed, where we thought teams would finish. But this week we wanted to focus more on the coaches and the players, and then some games that we're looking forward to. So first off, we want to talk about some coaches that have new homes.
Right.
So Jonathan, who's a coach that maybe moved to a different school that you think might have success this year?
So this guy, he's proven both at Western Kentucky and South Florida that he knows how to build programs. That's Willie Taggart. He did a great job, especially at South Florida last few years. They had a great year last year. He's going now to Oregon. We all know Oregon definitely has skill there. They just need the right players, and the coach to lead them. The players are definitely there. He's definitely getting some problems there. He needs to address. One of the biggest ones, probably defensive line, which he's already helped instrumenting bringing graduate transfer Pagano from Clemson last year. He played great at times for Clemson in their championship run. So to see a guy like him coming in all the way to Oregon to help him out on that D line, that's definitely a good start. So I'm interested to see where he goes with the Ducks this year and moving forward.
Yeah, the Pac-12 conference, that is a really good conference right now. There's some top-heavy teams. So Oregon was in the mix, just a few years ago. But after Chip Kelly left, it's been kind of downhill since then. So we'll see how that plays out. A guy that I'm looking at has a USF connection. The guy that replaces Taggart at USF, and that's Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong, for those of you that don't know him, he was won a couple of national championships at Florida under Urban Meyer. So he knows the area really well there in Central and South Florida. He knows the recruiting grounds, which is huge. And he's had success building other programs. He was the one that resurrected Louisville after Petrino left. So he has a track record of being a successful coach and building a program. So I look for him to do that. Great thing about USF, the expectations are not what Texas expectations are. And so he'll be better suited to have a little more room to build that program and be successful over the coming years.
Yeah, he's definitely a player's coach. And, players, even Texas, while the turmoil last year, he definitely had the players had his back. And at a school like South Florida, we've seen in the past when they've had success, they've had coaches that the players had their back. And so he's definitely walking into a good situation. And Taggart left it in a good situation, 10 wins last year. So we'll see how they do this year with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And you have your eye on another Florida coach down there.
Yeah, we already mentioned a little bit already with John Franklin III going over there. But I'm looking at Lane Kiffin leaving Bama as offense coordinator and heading to Florida Atlantic. I know Bama fans probably don't want him to have success, but at the end of the day, the guy, he's an offensive mind. He's one of the best in college football comes to offense. And he's gaining a very good quarterback race to begin with. Who knows if John Franklin III will even be mentioned in that? I'm sure he'll find a spot for him with that much speed. And then their running back, they have depth as well. And they've had players in the past at Florida Atlantic. You got like T.I. Hilton, that's a constant big league receiver in the NFL now. You got Fred Morris, who's from Pensacola, that he's now going to be the starter for the Cowboys, it looks like, with Ezekiel Elliott having a suspension. So they've had players with success there. He's getting an awesome recruiting platform. And being in the state of Florida, it's not going to be too hard for him to find athletes.
No, not at all. There's plenty of talent there for Florida Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy that I have my eye on is PJ Fleck. He was the coach at Western Michigan last year. They had an undefeated season going into the bowl game against Wisconsin. They ended up losing that game, but phenomenal season for Fleck, and he really grew that program into a top-notch mid-level program. And so he gets his opportunity to play with the big boys. He goes to Minnesota, and he's trying to compete in the vaunted Big Ten Conference. So many good teams around there, but he was really able to build that program. Row the boat was his famous saying. Very inspirational guy. He'll get those kids fired up and ready to play.
Yeah.
And there is an opportunity. There's a lot of good players up there in the north, and so it'll be all about recruiting and coaching those guys up.
And one thing, he's probably one of the few that's going to he's going to a new school that in a lot of ways, it's the same type mentality with school. It's still got a chip on your shoulder because they're a smaller school. They feel like they're the little brother, whatever, in their conference. But Minnesota has potential. They've shown in years past that they've been able to have a say in the Big Ten. So we'll see how he does. I'm excited. I was a fan of him last year. We did Western Michigan, so I'm excited.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that you root for. Just very, very inspirational. So we'll see how he does at Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about coaches that changed homes. Let's talk about players, transfers, possible players that are poised for a big season. Who do you have your eye on, Jonathan?
One guy, he showed a lot of great potential at LSU. He just never seemed to work out for him, and LSU's had their struggles at quarterback for several years now. Look at a guy like Brandon Harris. He's definitely got the skill set. He's got the big body to be a potential great college quarterback. Even has the arm. He's going to North Carolina now. North Carolina, the job is wide open. They had a very good, solid quarterback, Trubinsky. But I feel like with a guy like Brandon Harris, if he shows his full potential, he can elevate his game to where their quarterback position was last year. You got that. They're also going to have a great defense coming back for North Carolina, thanks to up until recently Gene Chizik being there as a defensive coordinator.
That's true.
So I'm really liking to see his potential there of being in good situations as a quarterback with a good defense.
Yeah,
Support.
and maybe that offense fits his skill set a little more than LSU, too. So it'll be interesting, Brandon Harris, how well he does this year. Guy I have my eye on is Will Grier. He sat out last season. For those of you that don't know, Will Grier started for Florida back in 2015. Started out 6-0 as a freshman and was just setting the world on fire. Florida was having a great season, and then the bomb gets dropped on him. Will Grier was taking performance-enhancing drugs, pleaded innocence, didn't know it was a banned substance, but really, you got to keep your eye on that. You got to know what you're taking. So he was held responsible for that, and he was suspended for a year. Now, he decided not to stay at the University of Florida. He decided to transfer last year to West Virginia. And so he's poised to be the starting quarterback there. And West Virginia is notorious for being top talent, top passing team. So it'll be interesting to see with him at the reins at quarterback how far he can take that offense. You know, me last week with my pick, I have West Virginia winning the Big 12 conference. So I think a lot about him. I think he will be an impact player for West Virginia.
Yeah, and one thing too that you could mention is the fact that those guys transferring, a lot of them are whatever reason they're getting to start right away where they're going. He was at West Virginia last year. He didn't get to play, but hey, he got to learn the playbook.
That's
you got
true.
to take his time. You got to know the guys on the team. So he's like coming in as maybe the number 2 guy in some situations where it's finally his time to shine. So he's definitely have the potential there to step in right away and go straight to work. So that's a good pick.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that. One good pick for me.
That's all you're getting.
Who's another guy that you have your eye on?
Yeah. This guy, I just feel like he didn't get his opportunity at his previous school, and that's Blake Barnett he's transferring from Alabama. He's one of those guys that last year there was a bunch of stuff going on. We've heard even afterwards that he was supposed to be the starter of that USC game, and yet Jalen Hurts went out there in that first possession, and he never went off the field. So I know there was a lot of frustration there, him and the other quarterback that left as well for Bama. But I really think between the two of them, especially, he's the other one that's going to the best situation. Arizona State is known for being a pass-happy team, and if there's one thing that his skill set is, he's a big-time passer. He's got the arm. That was the one thing Bama, they were loving about this kid was the fact that he was going to throw the ball. He may not could run the ball quite like Hurts, but he was going to be more of their passer. So the fact he's going to a pass system, I think is going to look good for him and look good for Arizona State. So that's my pick for one of the top transfers that could have a great year next year.
Yeah, he could really be a star at Arizona State. Another guy I have my eye on is Allen, moving from Texas A&M to the University of Houston. He had a great season a couple years ago at Texas A&M. Kyle Allen. He really great, accurate passer, can throw the deep ball. He transfers to Houston. And so we'll see. It's a mid-level team, so the talent isn't necessarily what the talent is in the SEC where he was at. So I think just the combination of that and how much arm strength he has, I think he can do really well. And he's got a couple of years there.
Yeah.
He's not just a one and done. So maybe if he rights the ship and takes Houston to where they could go, maybe you're talking about maybe an NFL mid-round pick for him.
Yeah, we were talking earlier before the show. You mentioned one of their quarterbacks was Ward last year is now a moving receiver who's a definite threat as an athlete. Maybe he's a lot better with him becoming a quarterback. Maybe the two of them, that could be some kind of combination. We'll get used to hearing out of Houston. Allen to Ward all day. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so those are a couple of players that we have our eyes on. Other thing we wanted to talk about was Heisman Trophy candidates.
Yeah.
You know, some of the players that we talked about, they're kind of dark horse Heisman candidates. There's more people that we think realistically have a good shot at winning the trophy. So, Jonathan, who's one potential Heisman candidate for you this year?
I'm just going to start with one that I'm thinking Ohio State's going to have a great year. So I really have to look at JT Barrett. He's probably going to be one of the few seniors this year, especially at quarterback, that I really feel is in a good situation, that their team is going to do great. He's going to be the man. So they've got a lot of talent returning, but also I'm looking at the fact that he has the experience there. He's gone through the ringer at Ohio State. He's had one crazy career, but for him to be sitting in a senior year being the guy, I think he's got the potential, definitely the skill to make something happen. And that's one of the reasons why Ohio State doing so well this year is because of JT Barrett.
Yeah, and JT Barrett, you think about his career, he's had a lot of ups and downs. He's been through it all, you know. And so guys with chips on their shoulder, you know, they usually rise to the occasion. So we'll have to keep our eye on him. One guy that I have as a potential Heisman candidate is Sam Darnold. We talked about him last week. I have USC winning it all. And usually the teams that perform the best normally have a player that gets invited to New York for the Heisman Trophy. So Sam Darnold, you know, he took over at USC when they were 1-2 last year. Very disappointing start. He ended up losing his first game as a starter, and then he rallied the team to an undefeated season for the rest of the year and a Rose Bowl victory. So just his combination of poise and leadership, and you talk about his arm strength. NFL scouts are already projecting that if he were to come out after this season, he would be the top player taken at quarterback and period in the draft. So that's pretty high praise. He's already said that, you know, he'll be returning to USC, but we'll see. If he wins a Heisman Trophy, a national championship, you know, he's a smart kid. maybe he leaves after just a couple of years at USC.
It wouldn't be the first time. So I know their intentions are good, but then I said the NFL sometimes the draw is too much, especially if they're getting that number one pick.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people talking in those kids' ears. You never know what they truly want to do, what they end up doing. But yeah, again, we both have USC doing well next year. I have them finishing second. So we both have them going national games, and we both feel it's going to be because of Sam Darnold. So yeah, definitely he's an easy pick for both of us.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Jonathan, you had your eye on a running back that has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about him.
I talked about him last week. Darius Geis. He's probably one of the top running backs in the country, and he's going to be one of the few that's going to be the guy on this team. He's definitely got the position. He's been characterized as Reggie Bush incarnate. Another Heisman running back, whether he kept or not, it's a story. But he's definitely got the potential, and I know you feel really strong about LSU doing well next year. I think they're going to have a good year too, and I really feel like if LSU has success, it's going to be on Geis' shoulders. Geis is going to be the reason for their big success. They're going to have a good defense next year, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Geis' team, and how well they do will be on him. So that's why I have him as a Heisman hopeful.
Yeah, I think he's poised for a breakout season. Being under Fournette, now he gets the majority of the carries. It'll be interesting. His numbers should be very good.
Right.
So we'll see how that plays out. I actually have my eye on another running back, Saquon Barkley from Penn State. I have Penn State having a really good year. I think Penn State, they're going to be in a lot of big games. And usually those big games, the voters look for Heisman moments.
Right.
And so Barkley toting the ball, he's a great receiver out of the backfield, but he's a great runner. So just that double dimension, I think he'll put up the stats. The spread offense that James Franklin has brought there will be crucial to his success. But Barkley, I look for him to be at least invited to New York. He might not win the trophy, but I think he'll at least be in the top 5 there for Heisman Trophy candidates.
Yeah, Penn State, he's just like guys. Penn State as well. Barkley's not Penn State. Yeah, I definitely like Barkley and Penn State's chances this year. So yeah, we're talking about some Heisman who we think will definitely get invited. About some guys that maybe will be considered dark horses that won't be necessarily a picture at the beginning, but by mid-season we'll be talking about it. Who's someone you like?
Yeah, somebody I like is Jake Browning at Washington. Washington came out of nowhere last year. Chris Peterson, the head coach, former coach at Boise State, he really was instrumental in that program being what it is. And so he moved to Washington last year. Washington made the Final Four. Nobody saw that coming. Everybody thought USC was going to be in the Final Four, but Washington ended up having a great season, won the Pac-12, went to the Final Four. Jake Browning was a huge reason why they were there. He returns his top wide receiver target among other offensive players. And I think, he showed great poise last year. He showed that he could compete at the highest level. So Jake Browning, if I had to pick a dark horse, he'll probably be right there in the mix of the conversation. Jonathan, another guy that we didn't even mention was Lamar Jackson, who actually won the trophy last year. What do you think his chances are this year?
It's one of those things where, let's be honest, there hasn't been anyone repeat or win a second time since Archie Griffin. And Lamar Jackson is a great athlete. He's a great player. He fits that system well. It's just been proven year in and year out that when it comes to college football, when teams have over a year to prepare for you, you don't do as well. For him to win the Heisman, he has to take his game to the next level. And I just don't – I feel like he played so great last year. Is there a level for him to go to? That's where my doubts are in him returning. Will they have a great year? Yes. Louisville's got a great team. They got a lot of talent coming back. But I just don't see him putting up the numbers he put up last year for people to warrant, oh, well, he did this last year. They're going to be comparing him to last year's Lamar Jackson. So I don't – whether it's fair or not, he's going to be – the entire season going to be questioned but compared to last year's Lamar. And I just don't see him able to repeat last year and then some when teams are preparing for him more.
Yeah, you look at his stats that he put up. It was basically video game stats where he was throwing up
Yeah.
6 to 7 touchdowns a game. And you're right. I mean, he's going to be compared to, oh, he was great, but he wasn't as good as he was last year.
Right.
So he's basically competing against himself. So it'd be interesting. It should be noted that there's only been one player in college football history that has actually won more than one Heisman Trophy, and that was Archie Griffin out of Ohio State.
Yep.
So that would be tough, especially nowadays. People are playing football is a year-round sport. People are preparing all year long. So I think Lamar Jackson, his chances of winning a second Heisman Trophy are kind of slim. But it should be noted for him that he's got 2 opportunities potentially to do that.
Yeah,
He's got 2 more years left at Louisville.
yeah, it's I say. I just don't think it's be this year. He might, if he wins, he stays at senior year, great. He had another opportunity, but this year I think everyone's gonna be prepared. So he'll have opportunity next year. But okay, this is what you did to me. Then I'll have that third year to be okay. This is what I can do now. But yeah, the second time around, look at a guy like Johnny Manziel. He was Mr. Whatever money all over the place. Won the Heisman next year, top of all the other off the field stuff. Teams were prepared for him. He didn't do as well. So that's gonna be the same thing for him. Returning Heisman's always struggle. Even Tim Tebow didn't win it but once. Everyone says he's the greatest skater ever. So we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out.
Mhm.
Let's talk about another guy that has more than 1 year remaining left of eligibility in Jarrett Stidham. We've
Yeah.
talked a little bit about him already. Jonathan, do you think he has a chance to win the Heisman?
Well, I really feel like at the end of the day, the Heisman, there's always that one player that it's the best player on the best team gets that nod. And I think with Stidham, he's going to have probably the most opportunities. I mean, you look at Auburn's going second week. They're going to Clemson. That would be a great opportunity to be like, for an opportunity for him, like, hello world, I'm back. He had some great games against teams when he was at Baylor those first years. When he came in as the backup as a true freshman, at times he really shined. Auburn goes to LSU early October. That's another opportunity that he'll have to show what he's got. And then at the end of the year, Georgia and Alabama, both at Auburn. Those are 2 more great opportunities for him to have that Heisman moment you're talking about. So that he definitely has the skills to be hit. So we'll just see. It a lot has to do with how Auburn does.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest question with Jarrett Stidham is, he doesn't have a lot of experience.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that he was a backup quarterback at Baylor. He wasn't even the top guy. And when he came in, he did have some success. Some of the competition that they played wasn't the best at defense. So he did have success. The Big 12 is mainly an offensive conference. So he did perform well when he got his opportunity. But, he ended up breaking his ankle and having some health issues. So I just wonder about his durability. I wonder about, is he going to be rusty? Hasn't played in over a year. So there's a lot of unknowns on him, but you hear the talk out of camp, and looking back to the spring game, I mean, no doubt he has the talent to be a Heisman Trophy winner.
And again, like I said about when it comes down to it comes to Heisman, how their team their team goes. So you look at all these players, Jake Browning, he wins the Pac-12. Chances are he's gonna have a good chance of Heisman. Guys, Barrett, Darnold, Barkley, all of them, they win their conference and they have a great year. Chances are they're gonna have a good opportunity to be raising that trophy for their team. So that's one good thing about college football is even the Heisman, as much as they say it's the greatest player, at the end of the day, it's a team earned trophy.
Yeah, it very much is a team sport. So it's dependent on the talent around you too. It's not just one person. So we talked a little bit about coaches that have the potential to have a nice season. We talked a lot about players that could have a nice season. Now we're going to transition and talk about some non-conference games that we're looking forward to next year. Just getting really close to the season, you can feel it. So we want to talk about things that are actually going to happen, not the hypothetical. These games will occur this year. One game I have my eye on is the Oklahoma-Ohio State game. that's a return game from last year. Last year, those two teams played in Oklahoma, and Ohio State ended up taking Oklahoma to the woodshed and beating them down. So Oklahoma returns the trip to the Horseshoe this year in Ohio State. And so really the matchup that I'm looking for in that game is the two veteran quarterbacks. So you mentioned J.T. Barrett, possible Heisman Trophy candidate. Seems like he's been there forever. And then you've got Baker Mayfield, who was a Heisman finalist last year.
Yeah.
So he's a great quarterback. We'll see what that matchup looks like. But what's intriguing about it as well is the offensive game. That could be a game that's just up and down the field. You wouldn't want to take a bathroom break on that one. You just want to walk in on the couch and get your drink ready.
Mhm.
So what's a game that you have in mind for next year?
Well, I say we might as well get out of the way. Everyone has been talking about it since season ended last year, and that's gonna be Bama, Florida State. It's gonna be a great matchup. Two teams that expect to finish the year playing each other.
Yeah.
To be honest, they really feel like this is round one for both fan bases and teams expect this to be the first of two games. You got Bama, who always going to be full of talent. Then we have Florida State, who I feel like is going to be one of the best teams in the country. You actually follow through with that and be a Final Four team. I don't have Bama finishing the season well. I was like, we'll talk about more next week about how I feel about Bama. But I really feel like Bama's going to win this game. But woes to come for the winner. But it's going to be an exciting game, and it's going to be competitive.
Yeah, another interesting thing about that game is that's going to be played in the new Atlanta Falcons Stadium.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to open that stadium the first weekend of college football. Another game I have my eye on, Jonathan does too, of course, is the Auburn-Clemson game, week 2 of the season. We talked a lot about Auburn, but we haven't really talked much about Clemson. Clemson actually won the national title last year. And, they lose Deshaun Watson and Mike Williams, the dynamic wide receiver quarterback tandem. So it'll be interesting to see how well Clemson can recover from losing some top talent. Clemson, they've had a really good offense the last few years, and they've very much recruited well. And then Auburn coming in, the SEC-ACC matchup. That's normally a really good matchup. Last year, the game was really close the first week of the season. So it'd be interesting to see how well Auburn performs. We talked a lot about Stidham and kind of the unknowns there. So that's definitely a game you want to circle and keep your eye out for. What's another game that you have, Jonathan, on your radar?
We're going on to week 3. I really think it's going to be a good test early for Southern Cal when they host Texas. Texas with Tom Herman. Again, like I talked about last week, I don't think Tom Herman and Texas are going to be ready to take over the Big 12. But I think that'll be a good test for them to see where they're at and where he's got them as a program, especially when USC, by that time, usually week 2, week 3 is when you see teams make the most improvement and they make that push for what the rest of the season is going to look like. Usually those first week or 2 games, they're to get rushed out. So, in fact, week 3, both teams should be playing really well. They've got everything situated. Usually, going into the season, there's 1 or 2 pieces on the depth chart they're still trying to figure out. All that should be covered. So I'm really thinking it'll be both a great opportunity to not only see how good USC can be and if they're going to be where we think they'll be by the end of the year, but also see where Texas is moving, their direction. They've lost so much talent last year. Tom Herman's got a lot of questions that he's having to answer this year. And I think this will be a good opportunity for both teams to see where they're at.
Yeah, it's a rematch of the 2005 Rose Bowl. That was the national title game, most people remember.
So maybe this is the year USC has to do other rematches. And it's games that should have happened.
We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell us the season plays on. But I'm definitely looking forward to that game too. I have another week 2 game on my radar. That's Georgia actually is going to go to Notre Dame and play Notre Dame at their place.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Georgia last week. Jacob Eason, returning quarterback. He's a stud. He has a lot of experience now with a year under his belt. And, Georgia, the Kirby Smart defense, they're going to have a great defense. Notre Dame, they had a lot of a disappointing season. They didn't meet expectations last year. So getting Georgia at their place, they can get up for that game. And who knows, if they win that game, maybe that puts them in the national championship conversation in the Final Four. So we'll see how that game plays out, but I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I agree. Georgia definitely has. I'd say I'm pretty high on them for next year. That'll be a good early test for them as well, getting everything going. And, as I move on to my next pick, you talk about Notre Dame and some of their disappointments last year. One of their biggest disappointments was losing to Navy. And I have the last game, one of my favorite games of the year. One of the things I love about college football, and it's exactly what college football should be, and that's Army-Navy. Every year, that's one of my favorite games of the year. The only thing I look forward to more than Army-Navy is Auburn, Alabama. But right after, it's just everything you should love about college football. You see in that game the tradition, true respect for each other, and they remember these guys are just playing football for fun. And when they're done with this, they're gonna go fight for our freedom. So we have that great opportunity, and it'll be interesting for the first time in 14 years. Navy's gonna be coming off not beating Army, so they're gonna be upset because they lost the streak. So let me see, will Army be able to start their own streak, or will Navy be able to get it back going in their favor? We'll see.
That's true. How long was that streak again of Navy beating Army?
14 years.
14 years.
I joke, like, even with the World Series with the Cubs and they finally won, I'm like, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. So I would not want any team to go 14 years losing to their rival unless it was Alabama. But besides that, yeah, it was one of the things that hopefully we don't see for a long time, because both schools are just awesome and they do so much for us besides play football for our entertainment.
Such pageantry in that game. And that's the only game of that weekend too.
Yeah.
So really, it's the only football going on. So how could you not watch that game?
And not to mention the fact this year both teams are looking really good for their divisions. That could very easily, the last regular season could be two conference champions playing a rivalry game. That would be really cool. I think would be great if both of them beat Air Force, just so we have that opportunity. Two conference championship playing for the Commander-in-Chief trophy. That would be a special Army-Navy game for sure. Not sliding in the Air Force, of course, but it would just be something special extra for that game.
Right. Well, that's all that we have for today's show. Next week, we're going to be previewing the SEC as a whole, and we'll have a couple other discussion topics. But you talk about the season, it's inching closer and closer. You can feel the NFL preseason football. Football is coming back to us.
Those are nice little teasers. But yeah, we're more excited about college, I think.
Well, we're grateful for you guys joining us. Hopefully you guys can join us next week as well. Have a good week.
Sure.